Hello, everybody. Today I am joined by Dale Crowe, once a promising professional boxer whose life took a very different path after a series of hard turns, choices, and consequences that ultimately led him to the prison system. His story could have ended there, but instead it became the beginning of a profound transformation. And while serving his sentence, Dale encountered A Course in Miracles. And what followed was a deep inner journey of forgiveness, self-discovery, and spiritual awakening. Today, he shares with us not just his story of struggle, but of redemption and purpose. A journey of violence and loss into healing, compassion, and a new way of seeing the world. Welcome, Dale.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm so chuffed that you've agreed to come on here, because I remember when I was starting my journey with A Course in Miracles, it was a few years back actually, and David Hoffmeister was my wingman all the way through that. I was so grateful for David. Thank you, David. Honestly, he was just, I had him on constantly watching. And I remember some of the stuff he shared about you. You were writing to him from prison, and he was like, we've got Dale in prison, and he's doing A Course in Miracles, and he's seeing all these things. It's amazing. And I was like, oh, what a story. And then my friend Samantha, a few days ago said, can I introduce you to Dale? And I was like, yeah, of course, who's Dale? And then it was like, oh, it's Dale. Dale, amazing. So yeah, I'm so chuffed to have you on. It's beautiful to see you.
Oh, it's nice. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
So not everybody's going to know. I know a little bit of the story. I don't know all the story. I watched the interview with you and David recently, but that was a good few months back. So I think we should just start from the beginning, if that's all right with you. I'm sure you're used to telling this story, but new things will always come out, and I think it's good for people just to get an idea of kind of where you were and where you are now, really. So the unfolding and the story of Dale, character Dale.
Right. I appreciate that. So what would you like to know?
Well, I think maybe if we start, I guess, how the character unfolded. Maybe if you look at the story, we all build these identities based on circumstances and what we are believing in the moment about ourselves. So it'd be good to see kind of maybe, how things unfolded for you from being a child, like what you were believing from your circumstances in your story, and how that, meant that you adapted as a person.
As far as with me, my character, I saw clearly in prison that how my character, and I saw clearly that as far back as I could remember, I dealt with insecurity. Mm-hmm. I dealt with low self-esteem, no confidence. And on the same token, I craved attention. I wanted to be noticed, liked, mm-hmm. accepted, and validated. And I needed something to do that to keep me safe. And what I chose was, I had an experience in school early on where I was bullied. Mm. And I said to myself, I'm never going to experience this again. I want to learn how to fight. So I went to a boxing gym and created the boxer, and at first people laughed. At first I was a lanky kid, skinny, but as time went on, I became better and better, and it became my identity. Mm-hmm. And it became such an identity that I feared, who am I without it? Who am I if I'm not the boxer? What if I want to quit one day? Mm-hmm. What if I can't measure up to the level that I'm projecting to everybody? Mm-hmm. And I hit that day, and I became professional, and an opponent of mine was paralyzed in the ring from the neck down in 2001.
Okay.
I was up and coming, and everyone thought that I was going to shoot up from that, and put a lot of pressure on me because I was expected to rise. And instead I fell because I didn't do well under pressure. I didn't believe I was truly good enough to be where I was at anyway. I never really loved boxing. What I found out was I loved the attention boxing gave me, the recognition that I gained.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize those things until afterwards, till I had time to go inside, metaphysically and physically, in prison. So I sat with that, and that was pretty much an eye opener for me. Like I never was really the fighter. I never was the boxer. I was an ego creating part of the ego craving attention. I want to exist and stand out from being, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was drawn to experiences that led me to A Course in Miracles. And The Course in Miracles was what spoke to me. People tried to get me into regular religions, traditional religions, and church and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it didn't speak to me, to what my mind needed to hear. So I was I had some experiences in prison where a life was almost taken again by me.
Okay.
And, I prayed one night. I was disrespected greatly in there, and my ego couldn't stand it, and I wanted.
But sorry, were you already doing the course at this point?
No, I hadn't
prior
found
to.
the
Okay.
Yeah, so I was really searching. I really was. I wanted something. I prayed that night because the next morning, I had planned to take a man's life again.
Okay.
And I prayed, and the prayer came to this. It came to, if you're real, God, come into my heart. Come into my heart and take this pain away, and you can have me in the morning. I never meant those words more because I was struggling. I was drowning. And I knew when I woke up the next day, I was about to cost myself a life sentence and take another life. And this wasn't the way to live. There had to be a better way, right? So a book showed up out of nowhere. I can't be more serious. A book showed up, and it's called The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer.
Oh, yeah. I love Wayne Dyer.
By Wayne Dyer. It showed up, and I asked everyone on my visit list. I said, "Did you send me this book? I really appreciate it." No one ever claimed that they sent it to me. I never found out who sent me that book, and it hit me in a way that was universal, though. It hit me a way that I said, "Okay, I can go with this." A way that I understand. And he mentions A Course in Miracles in there, and I was led from that book to the next book to the next book. I went to Wayne Dyer to, then I'm getting subscriptions to Playboy magazine. And so spirit reaches me where I'm at because Deepak Chopra was in this Playboy magazine, and
no. What's he doing in there?
Right. The article was it was called The Lao Tzu of Modern Times. And Lao Tzu is a Taoism. So I said, wow. So I looked at this and I realized I'm interested in this stuff, so I can go with this. And he mentions A Course in Miracles. So I hear it again. So I subscribe to this Course in Miracles and I look into it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really understand it, but something in it said to me, I know this is true. I knew when I was reading it, even though the words didn't always make sense to me, I said, this is true. It's got to be true. It resonated. And so I did all 365 lessons. Nothing, I'm like, okay, it sounds great. It's a great book. And I started getting deeper into the beliefs. But Light of Consciousness magazine, I was getting a subscription to, and I found David Hoffmeister. They did an article in there on his relationship with his father and the problems that he had with his dad growing up. And I resonated with that because my dad is a big part of my story. So both dads. I have a stepdad who raised me, who I call dad, and then I have my biological father, who we didn't get to spend a lot of time. I didn't meet him till later in life. So, but be that as it may, David Hoffmeister's way spoke to me, and I ordered all of his books. I said, I need this guy. I can get him. I can understand. So when I read his material, The Course in Miracles made sense to me. Now I can get it. Okay, so I read the books now. I go in the course and I know what it's saying. And like David just spoke to me. And he's from Cincinnati. He's from my area. Right. And like, what's the chances, in prison? But I was, like I said, I wasn't proselytized into this course. I was led to it. My mind was drawn to it. And it was miraculous for me. It's just unfolded ever since.
That's it, isn't it? And it's like somehow Spirit, God, drops this little pointer. It's a little sign, and then it shows up here and then here. And it was similar for me. It was like it showed up one place, was like, that sounds nice, and then didn't touch it, and then it arrived again, and then,
Right.
but I mean, I
And
think there's, feel very lucky that I could watch a lot of stuff on YouTube as I was kind of doing the course, etc. And you didn't have that. I mean, so how long were you in prison for?
20 years.
So were you given 20, and you did the whole lot, or did you have longer, or?
I had a definite sentence, so I had to do day for day, 20 years.
Mm,
And yeah, so it was actually about 19 and a half because I got some good time off
okay.
for going to college and things like that. So
Mm.
19 and a half years. But
So when you went to prison, then how long were you in prison before you started to say, right, okay, something's got to change? Because I imagine as well, when you go into prison, you have to also adapt to that lifestyle and how you integrate there, because I'm imagining you've got to look a bit tough, otherwise you're not going to survive. Like, so, take me through the process of getting in somewhere like that for a long, long stretch, and, adapting to that environment, and then making having that epiphany of, okay, I'm ready to make some changes.
so for me coming into prison, I had a reputation and
Already, yeah.
already because they plastered me on the news. Everyone knew I was an ex-professional boxer and all anyone cared about was the boxer. Even though I failed at boxing, what I perceived to fail in boxing, I came into prison and the guards they favored me. They did. They gave me I had special treatment and I didn't have to do the time that a lot of people had to do. I didn't have a trouble with that because everyone respected the boxer. So
Right.
this image is so hard to
You
break free
couldn't you
from.
couldn't get rid of the identity, could you? At
No,
that point, it's like there's
even
more.
failing, even failing, I couldn't get rid of it because all anybody was interested in. I did a horrific crime. I did. And I own that. And most people who committed a crime is grimy, if that's the word you want to call it, as I did, would have a hard time in their prison sentence with that, and rather than receiving it outwardly, I received it inwardly because I dealt with a lot of guilt and shame
Okay.
and I punished myself. I had 2 strokes when I was in prison. So, and I went through a period where I was paralyzed and I had to learn how to, talk again, walk again, all that stuff over again.
Mm,
And it was hard, but I believe that, I did. I punished myself for years. And
mm,
Course of Miracles came to my life because it preaches forgiveness, and that's the main thing is I had to understand that I projected this world I see.
mm.
The world I see is not the world that God created,
Yeah.
and I just talked about that this morning, and people wrote me and that said, well, my life isn't so great right now, and you're so positive and stuff, but they said my life isn't great now, and they said, how could God create such a nasty world? I said my response was he didn't,
No, he didn't.
so and I gave my explanation for that, but the course helped me. The course helped me understand that predicament, that situation.
Mm.
So I was very thankful for that, and it's just everything is unfolded just as I needed it to.
So obviously going into prison, being special and being kind of probably, above a lot of the guys in there. How did you start to undo the specialness? Because obviously it's the specialness, the identity that is the suffering, and, it's that identity that, leads to us making those choices in the moment, which obviously it's not really us. But, we do, those things happen because of the thoughts and the beliefs and the infrastructure really underneath. So, how did you start to see that the identity needed to go, and how did that feel?
Well, it was scary at first because, again, the question comes up, who am I if I'm not that?
Mm,
And I couldn't take it anymore. And so opportunities started to come when I walked this path that the staff started to trust me and I started getting offers to facilitate and teach to inmates.
wow.
So in order to do that, I wanted to, I had to share, I had to open up what I had done. I was tired of hiding behind a lie because I had lied all my life. I realized I've been living one big lie.
Mm.
And I got up in front of a class and I just started telling them, I said, you know what? I said, you guys respect me and you look up to me for the boxer and the tattoos and the steroids I used to do and all these things. I said, but it's a lie. It's all facade.
Mm.
It's this image I put up for so you guys respect me. And you bought into it, and
Mm.
so I started telling them that, and it started just layer after layer started falling away, and I started feeling more comfortable around my environment. And surprisingly, it was well taken, and people started to join in on the classes. We began a prison ministry called The Last Step,
Mm.
and that's with the Course of Miracles, and I talk about David Hoffmeister to everyone I can because he's just been the best thing that ever happened to my mind because I couldn't understand it otherwise.
Mm. And how did you actually manage to find him? Like, how did you know where to send the letters to?
Oh, I looked in his books that he
Okay.
published, and I sent I didn't think he would respond to me. I didn't think I would get the response I got.
Mm.
But it was right near Christmas in 2018, and I wrote a letter. I said, "Look, I'm drowning here." I said, I wrote to the prison ministry on the back of his book, thinking, he's huge, he's all over the world, so there's no way he's going to read my letter, and he did. He got it and he shared it with his community for that Christmas that you heard.
Yeah,
And
I think that must be the one I listened to. Yeah.
man, and I started getting letters from all over the United States.
I love
And
that.
I said, what is this? So I was really taken in by it, and it was just amazing. It really was. And it just confirmed you're going the right way. You're going the right way. Stay this path. And it's just been a dismantling ever since, just letting go.
Yeah, and it's that extension of love, isn't it? You realize, like, oh yeah, it is here. The love is here. It's just about letting go of the blocks to love, which is the identity that we've created. Whether it's the boxer or the musician, the DJ, the dancer. We've got lots of roles. We've not just got the one. We've got the mother or the father or and yeah, we're playing different identities all the time.
Yeah, and I've said that to people. I said, look, it's not just me. I said, not just the boxer. I said, it's the lawyer, it's the athletes that can't let go of that image. It's the self-image. Because the self-image can only do one thing for you, to remind you of who you was, who you used to be, but can be no more. And that's the biggest thing that's the hardest thing to let go of, is can I be accepted can I be accepted for who I am and not who I was? And that's been my journey.
But it's exhausting as well, trying to keep up a persona that's not really the truth. You can see how it leads you to miscreation, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I said that just yesterday. I said, you realize you have to unlearn as soon as you wake up in the morning. You have to let go of everything you learned yesterday because all it's going to do is perpetuate a linear timeline that is ultimately not real. Like you have to only this moment's real, so you have to let go of all the identities, strip it all the way down, be your naked self, your naked being, and that's, my wife makes me come, that's how she says she doesn't like the self-image. She doesn't like nothing about my old self. And meeting her was just what my mind needed to finish my journey because I can't, I can't hold that image up anymore. This wallet is heavy.
Well, I love the story about Dina. So you need to tell me about tell us about how that unfolded, because you actually had a bit of a secret love for her when you were, how old were you? Like 12?
12 years old, yeah.
Go on, tell us. This is just like this is box office material. Go on.
She was my first crush, my obsession. I was obsessed with this girl, and I would go watch her at the swimming pool just to see her, just to see her walk, and my friends knew this, and they went and told her one day. And so I get a chance to meet her, right? She's coming, she walks up, she's fearless. She walks up and she's going to meet me. And as she's walking toward me, I panicked. I don't have the confidence to talk to someone like this. I seen her as, my world. So I ran away. I ran out of the pool. I didn't even stay at the pool. I was so ashamed that I messed up that moment, for years. Cause she was taken away not long after that. And, a family situation took her away from where we grew up at. And I lost contact with her. And I never really had contact with her. Really, I just wanted to meet her. And I always compared her. She was the one. Like I always compared her. Like I said, well, she's not better than Dina. She's not better. And years went by, and what happened to me happened. And she went her way. But we mirrored each other. She moved to Las Vegas. I was living in Las Vegas when she was there. I moved there also.
Mm.
She moved to Reno. I was in Reno. And now she's in Florida, and I was in Florida right before prison. And
Okay.
so I was in prison, and I just, I got to a point where I didn't feel that I could fit in anywhere in the world. I didn't care to come out to this world anymore. It
Mm.
has nothing to offer me. I've done everything that you can do at 30 years out there in prison. That I traveled the world. I got to experience a lot of things that people don't get to see.
Mm.
And for me, I really didn't care to step out of prison. So I was approached by my grade school bully. Keith Wright was his name. And Um, I just published a book about this. It's called The Bully Exposed, and this walks you through the whole journey,
Yeah.
this handling, and Keith Wright, he humiliated me at a young age, right around 12 years old. I had, took all my confidence away, just beat me up, and I learned how to box from that point. But anyway, so go back to where I'm at in prison. After I met him, he came into prison and reunited with me. He wanted to meet me, say, "Hey, how you doing, brother? I'm so proud of you."
So he came to see you, or he actually was in prison?
He was in prison. Yeah, he was in prison,
Ooh.
and he gets shipped into my camp that I'm at to finish off his last few months.
So can I ask a question? Just a quick question then. Had you done the forgiveness on him at this point? Had you been working on that? You just arrived.
He just arrived, and that's when your mind wants to heal, it draws to you the people that need to facilitate that healing.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he grabs me and he hugs me and he tells me, I missed, I watched you fight all these years. I'm proud of you. And I'm looking at him because it's been 35 years since I've seen him. And I said, grab his name tag, and I read it, and I said, man, and my eyes got watery. I said, wow. He said, what's wrong? What'd I do? What'd I say? He said, did I do something? I said, no. I said, you don't understand who you were to me.
Yeah.
I said, there is no boxer without you. There's no boxer. None of this happens without a Keith Wright, and I said, I'm not blaming you for my problems, but how I interpreted my problems is it ultimately became the building blocks of my life. And, for you, but so we got to become friends, and we bonded, did a lot of forgiveness lessons in that, talking and hearing him speak to me the way he really felt as a kid. Let me know that, it wasn't just me that he took a shot at. He was an angry kid also, and he dealt with self-image also, and I needed to hear those things because I never really put it together.
I think as well, we don't realize, we take everything really personally, and we don't realize that every character is going through their own journey and interpreting the play or whatever you want to call it in their own way based on their own perceived ideas and experiences. So it's like, I've had it as well. I had it like, when perceived situations where I thought, were unfair or unkind. And then I've met people years later and they're like, hi, how are you? And I'm like, really? Like, you don't see, like, were you not there? I was there. Were you not there? And it's just, they're not even aware of it. It's really not personal, and it is interpretation, isn't it?
It's all interpretation. And that's the thing is like, they perceive it in their world entirely different than I did, because he didn't even really recall how bad I was treated. He didn't even know, like, and so he's like, what, are you blaming me for your crime? I said, no, I'm not blaming. I said, I'm blaming my interpretation of what you did to me for why I did what I did, because I would have never went to box, learn how to fight if it wouldn't have been for that moment, so I was just, and so having that moment with him healed me so much. It went as far back as I can remember in my chain of events where the link first broke. And it healed it, and my whole link became strong again. I said, wow, I had a high from that. I said, who else could I do that with? Like, if you had a chance to go back and do that one moment, that everything would have been different, what moment would you choose? And I chose Dina Hard because she was my high school. I said, man, if I could have got her in grade school, my life would have been different, And of course, we know now that,
it's supposed to be.
Right, it wasn't supposed to happen then, because I truthfully the boxing and all that stuff, I had to go through a lot of dismantling before I could meet her. Someone like her, and like so I said, you know what, I'm gonna look her up. I called a good friend of mine. I said, hey, look this girl up and tell me where she's at because I haven't seen her in all these years. And he looked her up, he found her and she's in Florida. And I said, ask her if I can write her a letter. I said, just ask her. He writes her back and she says, what's he want? She said, tell him I don't want a relationship. And she's not interested. And I said, I just want to write her a letter. And she said, fine. So she gave me her address. I write her, pour my heart out to her, tell her everything that I felt and what's happened ever since I owned what I did. I said, you're going to hear a lot of bad things about me. They're all true. I said, but this is what it is, and this is how I felt all these years. And, today we're married, we connected, started coming to visit me and we're married today.
How long were you sending letters to Dina then, back and forth, before you got out?
Oh, we were about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, about a year and a half. Yeah, it went 1, 2, 3. So we connected strong. And I called every day, and it was just it was magic, man. It really was. It was.
And then when you actually got to meet her in the flesh, because you'd kind of had all that vulnerability where you've poured your heart out, and she knows the truth of you and who you are, and there's no hiding. Did you find it really easy to connect when you actually met her?
It was like we'd always been together because it was it, but it. I gotta admit that, like, when I first seen her, I was that 12-year-old boy again, and that's at the pool, and I made it right, I this is a win for me. Like, I was right back at the pool, and I followed. I had the courage to talk to her, and everything went perfect. I hit the home run, so I was really happy about it, And same thing with Keith Wright, though. As soon as I saw him as a 50-year-old man, I was immediately taken back to that little scared little boy, and I had problems with that little. I never healed from that little boy, and it's like I need to do a lot of inner work on that because I let him control my entire life. It's been dictated off of being good enough.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the script. The script is written, and yours was this for your awakening, and for you to find that, if those things hadn't happened, then you wouldn't have been on this journey. I mean, this is. And it's very simple, well, not very similar, because everyone's, some stories seem a little bit more extreme than others. But really, I think from a suffering perspective, from the mind, not necessarily what's going out in the world, but I think, the ego thought system is a horrible place to be in for everybody.
It's a nightmare.
Why wouldn't you want to get out? Like, if there is a proven way to get out of that, you're going to want to get out.
Absolutely. I mean, it just goes back to what the Course says, is that nothing, anything that hurts us is not of us. I think that's today's lesson, actually.
Really?
I think that's the actual lesson for today. Is what's crazy. Hold on, I have it right here. It's whatever suffers is not a part of me, and that's it. That nails it right there. Whatever suffers. And suffering comes from not accepting what is, and the ego can only live on linear time. It has to have a path of regrets or anticipate a future,
So, I mean, so that they're definitely miracles. Have you had any other kind of very clear moments where, I mean, obviously we're talking about like time collapsing. Well, it's almost like time collapsing, isn't it? Where, it's almost like, unless we're having a conversation like this, you can't even access those parts now. It's almost like it's almost like it didn't happen in a lot of ways.
I mean, there was dismantling the whole journey. It's like guided me to this. So I had my prison experiences where my armor was challenged, and it chips away a little bit of me and stuff like that. But since I've been out, it's been expedited. So there's been people that come into my life that shouldn't have been there otherwise. People that I need forgiveness from, or I need to forgive, have entered my life. I served 12 years for a man named Doug Alsop, and he came back, and I didn't want to do social media at first, but then I seen that this is just the way of the world, and it's a good way to find extension. So this guy contacts me, Doug Alsop, and I'm wondering what his motives are. In my mind, I'm like, because I'm stuck in the past. The ego's stuck in the past.
Suspicion.
Yeah, suspicion. I'm like, why is he contacting me? And I wrote him back. I said, listen, I don't know your motive for contacted me, but I said, I'm not living that way anymore. I've changed my life,
Nice.
totally turned myself around. I said, I don't believe in the things that way of living anymore. And I said, I apologize to you and I'm sorry for what I did. He wrote me back just this nice letter and just, he too's changed his life in another way.
Mm.
And he appreciated what I had to say and wants me to keep doing what I'm doing. And the same thing, I said, I'm going to use you in my story. He said, if my story can be used to help others, he said, absolutely, say my name. It's Doug Awesome. Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm really curious as well to understand. So when you were in prison and you were started to help other people, like how did that go down? Were you like saying, right, okay, everybody gather round. I have a book here. We're going to read. It's about God.
yeah.
Like how did that go down?
Well, at first it didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
at first they're like they thought I was drinking the Kool-Aid. They were like, man, they weren't
Where's
really
Dale gone?
right, man. Well, because I started out as one, I started out as one of them, and all of a sudden I started shifting and changing prisons. I had to leave my environment to walk the way I was walking because no one wanted to go that way. I think they did, but everyone worries about what the other man thinks.
Mm,
That's all they care about. And so when I walked away from that life, people started to draw to me. When I was given the opportunity to facilitate, people just wanted their certificate, the paper
mm,
saying I did this, I completed this in prison. So my classes were ways for people to get certificates at first, and then it started coming in. They said, well, when David had all those people respond to me and they see I'm getting all this mail, all this correspondence, they're like, well, how did you connect with this guy? And I told them the story. And then I started letting them read. I started passing David's books out, and they started reading them, and they too started resonating with them. And
mm.
like I said, today we got the Last Step Ministry. It spreads across the United States.
Yeah.
It's really going good, and it's all because of that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So how are you sharing it then? Are you actually, so the last step then is it a program where you share the course, or is it like just some of the kind of core ideas of the course, or how does that work?
I started telling them about David's first, not his first book, but one of his books he had just come out with was called "This Moment Is Your Miracle."
Mm,
And I passed out a bunch of those, and I just started preaching this moment is all we had. You are this moment, and it was that it was a comforting thought to people, and I think it was a welcoming thought.
yeah.
And they started opening their minds to something different than what prison preaches, because prison really, it's hard to find, a light in prison. It really is.
Mm,
They started seeing the light in the class. More and more people started joining.
mm. Beautiful.
It's a dark place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as well, especially if you're in the realm of guilt and shame, and then probably being around lots of other people who are also feeling like that, and attack and defense and all those things, that is basically the ego, isn't it? So it's like to be shown a way that where you can actually step out of that, you can step out of that inner voice that's telling you that you are guilty and shameful, and and back to unconditional love. It's like that's what a gift to share, especially everywhere, but especially in prisons.
Well, it's like you go in there and it's like you realize that prison's it's a physical place. Yeah, it's not a good place physically,
Mm,
but depending on how invested you are in this character, like it's just a state of mind.
yeah.
It really is a state of mind. Like it's because I like I said at the end, after 20 years, I really didn't want to come out.
I
I
was
was having
wondering about that, yeah, but that was because your mind had shifted, surely.
my mind shifted and I was having a different experience, and then
Mm.
I was given the ultimate experience was meeting Dina, and then I had something to get out for, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, and I can, but I could extend that happiness that I felt, in there all those years.
Mm.
Now I could get out and extend it out here, and that's
Exactly,
how,
because yeah, because you had a purpose in prison for that, to show your journey, but now to come out and to be able to speak about this even on a even bigger stage is beautiful.
David Hoffmeister he said the world is a metaphor for the sleeping mind to awaken, and that really makes sense to me, like because we all have to go inward to heal.
Yeah.
In my case, I had to have an extreme example to go inward and heal a big chunk of ice, and dissolve that ice and come out. And then I take what I learned inside and I come out with it now. come out, and I'm extending that joy that I found. But
Yeah.
it took that every step of the physical journey to make that manifest. It was
Yeah.
nice.
You've done some hard graft.
Uh,
You've worked for it,
uh,
Dale. So what's happening now? So how long have you been out of prison?
4 months.
Is that all it is?
All it is, 4 months.
Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah.
How are you finding, like, so you've come out, and obviously I'm assuming that did you have access to computers and things and like the internet,
No,
or no?
we didn't.
So you must have come out and just been like, wow, what is going on?
Well, like I'm on the moon. I didn't really. I didn't know this a little going on. Because I don't get anything that's going on. My wife has to guide me through every step of the day. It's like she's like walking with a child every day because I don't understand much,
There's something
And
very beautiful about that, though. It's
there
like,
is, but for the
brand
people
new.
living in the world, they really it gets a little bit I guess annoying at times because I gotta have help in the grocery stores and everything. Like, I don't know what's going on when I gotta ring up and stuff like that. It's just I get and there's so many things that I'll log into on the computer and I'll get my information taken. Or I mean, I don't know nothing about this stuff.
In fairness, I think we're all dealing with that now. I think it's all moving so quickly that, I mean, even I'm just like, oh my God, how many passwords do I need? Like, why?
I forget my passwords. I can't do none of it. So
Yeah, I think we're all struggling with the pace of technology. So yeah, you've come at a good time, really.
yeah, I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get it.
So what are you doing now? So obviously you are, you're speaking about your experience. You've written a book. The book, what's the book called again?
It's called The Bully Exposed.
The Bully Exposed. And where is that available now, or are you still writing it?
It's available on Amazon. It just came out last week.
Okay.
Check it out.
Yay! Amazing. I will definitely have a look at that. And then what else are you doing? Is it mainly, just speaking about your experience, or have you got any plans to maybe get out and meet some people?
I'm trying to create a platform to where I can go. I have to get off paper first. I'm on parole.
Oh,
So I'm trying to create a platform along the way though to where I can work within prisons and schools and things like that. So I can spread this message and extend that joy and that's really what my book's about. It's to reach the ones that are struggling inwardly, the at-risk youth, people like that. I'm trying to reach them. And, my first book was called The Bully Within. And I talk about the voice in our heads, what we tell ourselves and the trouble that leads to. It's basically around my story, But ultimately you go past that and you see you're not your story.
Yeah.
You're what's aware of that story. And that's what this book, The Bully Exposed, recognizes. You're just the awareness, that's the atonement. That's when you have to go through a lot of healing those grievances, and all of those grievances appear in many different forms along the way, along your journey. The grievances, of like bullies in school, people that you've wronged. They're just anything,
Forgive them for what they didn't do.
what they didn't do. They're just reflecting what my mind believes to be true about myself,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally hear you. I totally hear you. Well, I'd love to speak more about this. I mean, I'm sure we can maybe have another chat. It'd be nice to catch up with you again in another few months and see what you're up to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would enjoy that. Yeah. And like I said, you asked it, but right now I'm not doing anything. I'm getting ready to begin a new job on Monday. I've experienced a little bit of personal training since I've been out.
Okay.
And, doing stuff like that. But yeah, things are going well though.
Yeah. And I think, your story, I mean, obviously, it's going to benefit people, youngsters or whatever who are maybe struggling with their own inner demons, image. But I just think this is for everyone, obviously, there are what seems like extreme cases, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing going on for everybody, just a different story, because we are one having the experiences as other, and we've got to heal the one mind so that we can't leave anyone behind, can we?
Can't leave anyone behind.
Not one single one.
Everyone needs forgiveness. That's it.
They all do. They all do. Oh, thank you so much, Dale. It's so beautiful to meet you. I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Lots of love. Thank you.
Lots of love. Thank you. Have a good day.
And you.